host of Off the Edge, Jacob Harrison. Disappear like man was never here. Live machine. Our future supreme. Your man overthrown. Spit out the bone.
Hello there. Good morning. Welcome in to Off the Edge, Tide 100.9. It's a great day to talk some Alabama football. We'll do that for the next 57 minutes here on your home for Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Available on your Android or Apple device on the Tide 100.9 app. Just search up Tide 100.9 app inside the Google Play Store or in the App Store relative to your device. And you can take Alabama Crimson Tide's news and analysis everywhere you go, whether it's written or on the air. We've got you covered wall to wall each and every single day, as well as on game day all day. Because we'll get you started with Saturday Morning Showdown. We'll get you to the Tide Tailgate pregame show with Joe Gaither. We'll get you to the Crimson Tide Sports Network pregame show through the game as well. The postgame show with Roger Hoover, as well as myself and Kerry Clark taking you 2 hours after the game for 2 hours of phone calls and analysis and reaction to how Alabama performed in the football game. We'll also let you know that you can enjoy the show on the streams at Off the Edge 109, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Greatly appreciate subscriptions there on the YouTube side, retweets on the Twitter side, likes on the Facebook side. We appreciate it all, and it helps out the show grow just a little bit more out in the digital space. Also want to tell you about Alabama Vintage, AlabamaVTG.com, 2210 University Boulevard under the Crimson awning across from City Hall. They've got everything in store for you there to deck out your fandom on your person or in your home, whether you need starter jackets, shoes, hats, commemorative t-shirts, an incredible selection of jerseys as well. Vintage players of all kinds, as well as Alabama, whether it's their professional jersey or it's their Alabama jersey. I mean, the selection of jerseys there is incredible, and they're great prices too. I mean, you're not going to go drop $100 on a jersey at Alabama Vintage. Like, they're reasonably priced. You walk in, see a jersey you like, and walk out of the store with it without any buyer's remorse of saying, well, I just had to drop $100 on a jersey. That's not the case at Alabama Vintage. So go check them out. Find them on Instagram at Alabama VTG. That's the best way to find what's new in stock and claim it for yourself, and connect with the brand ambassadors, the NIL deals that have been struck with Charlie and the gang there at Alabama Vintage for 15% off your order at AlabamaVTG.com. So, Alabama wins 48-14. That should be a good thing, right? We shouldn't be stressed out. We shouldn't feel disgruntled. That breaking news? Breaking news. Texas A&M quarterback Haynes King has fractured his ankle. So the Aggies, who already have not performed particularly well early in this season, they're now without their starting quarterback. And, for everybody that had thought that LSU or Texas A&M, the old powers in the West, that's who's going to be the second best team in the West. Look out for those Rebels. Look out for Ole Miss. I'm telling you. This is one more thing that's going to help Ole Miss get that much closer to that type of season. They got to take care of business against teams that have been closer to their level in years past. But this is a big loss for the Texas A&M Aggies. But back to the Crimson Tide. You're good. Back to the Crimson Tide. It's bizarre, isn't it? We're the only fan base that acts like this, I feel like. I may be wrong. But yesterday I watched my Pittsburgh Steelers, and I watched them play probably the best defense in the NFL in the Buffalo Bills on their turf. And the whole game I was like, well, not going to learn much about this offense. Najee Harris doesn't even eclipse 50 yards, doesn't even get a reception. So my 1,000 and 1,000 prediction looking a little slim right now. Hope he has a great final 16 games. But the whole game, it's, okay, I'm learning about what this team is like. How's this offensive line going to handle playing against a defensive line like that? And, trying to formulate my understanding of where my NFL team is at. But with Alabama, the expectations are so incredibly high that you don't just take the win. You don't just acknowledge that you won by 34 points and go home with that. It's not acceptable, because at the end of the day, the performance against Miami was better. And it can't all be downhill from the first half, which is what it has seemed to be. The first half against Miami, nearly perfect football. Second half, you let up a little bit. You play a little bit more realistic. Miami comes out fighting. They make their halftime adjustments, and they get on the board. Then you go to this game, and you're stumbling out of the gates against Mercer. Now, last Wednesday, a little bit with Kendall. Last Thursday, after we heard from Nick Saban, I talked about how you really should be taking this seriously. It's not rat poison to think that Alabama is going to dominate the scoreboard, because clearly, just based on talent and coaching alone, they did that. But they also did exactly what Nick Saban talked about. They went out and laid an egg in the execution category. Maybe not an egg, maybe a D+ effort in the eyes of a Nick Saban, maybe a C+ effort in the eyes of the fans who are maybe a little bit less critical, little bit less fine-tuned of an eye. And when I saw that team, I mean, it is clear as day. It is clear as day. Alabama, talent-wise, on paper, they're better than everybody. But that's not good enough. That's not how you win national championships. There have been plenty of teams, plenty of programs throughout history in all sports that on paper look like the best team, and then they get bounced in the playoffs. There are plenty of situations where you can look back on that, or they don't make the playoffs at all. And injuries and those sorts of things that you can't prevent aren't the root cause. So now you get in and you look at the way that Alabama performed against Mercer. Yes. Defensively, I think they played well. Special teams, you made the big plays when you needed to. Offensively, your talent won out. And when you hear Nick Saban after this game, you listen to his opening comments and how he gives respect to Mercer and respects the effort that they brought. And then you go and you listen to the way that he talks about his team and how fired up he got. We heard a couple of Nick Saban rants after the ball game. Then you, once again, you get a question from a Mercer guy asking about what Nick Saban thinks about Mercer within their league. Again, big time respect. That's a great football team relative to their level. The way they run their offense, the way they run their defense, they can be a good team relative to their level. Back on special teams, back on the penalties, fired up, talking about a reckoning and being accountable for everything that you do, making better decisions, making better choices on the football field as a football player, and doing the things the way that you're supposed to do. The reason Nick Saban sounds like a broken record, and the reason why we as fans and as media and analysts that we kind of just brush it off and laugh it off, is because for Nick Saban, he has to reinstate this every single year. That's kind of the blessing and the curse of college football. You don't have to change your gimmick very much, but you do have to lay out the same rhetoric all the time. Because you have to teach these 18 to 22-year-olds what it means to be an excellent football team in terms of execution, in terms of discipline, and those sorts of things. Because you're already the most talented people. You're already the most talented team in the land. You got to add in those extra spices in order to become a complete football team. And that's where Nick Saban kind of draws. And where Alabama fans may be a little bit, well, you're going to win anyway, right? You might buy into the little bits of rat poison that we in the media tend to feed you a little bit, right? Well, Alabama's going to win by big anyway, so it's really no stress on that end. But then we get into the stadium and we watch this team struggle, giving up a sack on the first third down of the game by a sixth-year tackle. And Chris Owens owned it in the media and on social media, owned it, lived up to it, talked about how he had to get better, how the entire team has to improve, right? Nobody's making excuses on this football team, least of all Nick Saban. Nobody is saying, woe is me. Nobody's giving out those poor me's that Nick Saban mentioned during training camp, or at least not publicly. But internally, you can tell there's so much more for Alabama to have to work on this year than what had to be the case last year because of the experience and the leadership that existed on the football team last year. And Nick Saban calling that the ultimate team. You look at it this year, there's a lot more inexperience. There's a lot of guys that still need to buy in and understand the process. And that was self-evident early in the first quarter. Jamison Williams pushes a guy just because a defensive player got the better of him at the end of a play and he lost his helmet. You can't lose your cool like that. And Nick Saban talked about it. You got to play with high intensity, but you can't lose your cool. You still have to be in control. You still have to play within yourselves. And looking ahead to Florida, now it's almost been 24 hours, or it's been 24 hours, and now it's time to move on. Now's the time to look ahead to Florida and what they've got. On paper, the Gators don't match up at all. They don't, but they're capable of big plays. They are capable of big plays. Jacob Copeland is a big-time playmaker for them. And regardless of whether it's Emory Jones or it's Anthony Richardson, either of those quarterbacks, they have a big enough arm to find that guy down the field and make big splash plays. Well, you say, well, Alabama's defense is the strength. Alabama's defense performed the best out of everybody relative to the Crimson Tide against Mercer. Should we really be stressed out about that matchup? Yes and no. Understand playmakers make plays. But offensively, Florida's defense isn't good. It's more of the same. It's more of the same. And just watching a handful of plays against the USF Bulls, it's self-evident. There's still just not enough talent over there. They've got relatively good defensive backs like they usually do, but across the board, still not a great defensive team. But you still have to go in and execute. You still have to go in and do the things that you've been coached to do. And that's all Nick Saban has asked of them. That's all Nick Saban has asked of him. So we'll hear from the coach in the second segment. And we'll start to break down some of the things that he's talked about and focus more on a handful of players who did stand out. We'll get you updated on what's going on with Will Anderson and all that and so much more here on Off the Edge. Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
With Taco Casa, it's not really fast food because it's made fresh every day in the store. The quality hasn't changed. The consistency hasn't changed because we haven't changed anything in the food. It's made fresh every morning in every restaurant. I think buzzwords in today's food industry are locally sourced and high quality ingredients. We want to say, that sounds great. We've been doing that since 1974.
Under the biggest cactus in town, Taco Casa.
When you're ready to buy something, the first thing you do is go online. But buying a home is different. You've got loan applications, pre-approvals, competing offers, the list goes on. That's where a Realtor comes in. Realtors have expertise and local knowledge to give you a competitive edge that a search bar just can't. And in today's market, an edge is what you need. So when you're ready to buy a home, the first thing to do is make sure you have an agent who's a Realtor. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
The original Peloton bike offers more motivation.
Great job, team!
70% of members say they work out more now with Peloton than before. Get game-changing cardio at a new game-changing price. The original Peloton bike, now $400 less. Learn more at onepeloton.com.
Creamy nut butter makes it delightfully sweet. Roasted nuts make it perfectly salty. Get two great tastes in one delicious bar. Enjoy a Nature Valley sweet and salty nut bar today.
Where will you be on game day? Be a part of the action with a premium reserve tailgate from Game Day Done Right. Get your group together, pick your game and tailgate package, add on catering, beverages, and other tailgating amenities, and let Game Day Done Right take it from there. Enjoy all of the fun game day with zero stress. Visit GameDayDoneRight.com to reserve your tailgate today. For your next tailgate, just add people. Game Day Done Right is the exclusive provider of reserve tailgating services for the University of Alabama and offers packages for all group sizes for a single game or the entire season.
Dell's semi-annual sale is the perfect opportunity for a significant business upgrade. Save up to 45% on Dell computers built for business with Windows 10 Pro. Plus, enjoy special pricing on Dell docks, monitors, servers, and more, all with easy financing options through Dell Financial Services. Succeed anywhere with Windows 10 Pro. Speak to a Dell Technologies advisor today to find the right tech for your business with fast, free shipping. Call 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Increasingly cloudy this afternoon. The chance of a shower or storm in a few spots. The high in the mid-80s at 86. For tonight and tomorrow, mostly cloudy. A few showers and thunderstorms are likely. Our low tonight 69. The high tomorrow at 79. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 82 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Follow Off the Edge on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for live streams and instant analysis. Off the Edge with Jacob Harrison continues.
All right, let's get into it. 205-342-9904. The show is yours all day. That's how we do it on Monday. There's no guest on Mondays. We just break down the victory, break down the big-time players, break down what needs to be fixed, and we prepare ourselves to get to the next week. No gimmicks needed, but that's how we're going to do it on Mondays during the season. Just break it down, get to the root of it, figure out what needs to be done to improve. And we do that by listening to the smartest guy in the room. And the smartest guy in the room, no matter where he is Nick Saban. So here's Nick Saban, his opening comments plus the first question, because it kind of gives that comparison between the way that he talks about Alabama and the way that he talks about Mercer, and showing you have to respect your opponent regardless of who they are. Because if you don't respect Mercer and you go out and you blow them out 69-0 like we predicted, but you don't respect them in the process by executing and doing your job, how do you go into Gainesville and respect the Florida Gators? You probably don't. So here's Nick Saban breaking it down Saturday after the game.
You know, offensively, we got to play a lot of players. Obviously, the experience will, help them as well. But, all in all, it was a good win. You got to give a lot of credit to their team. It's kind of their team's dream to play in a game like this. So they're going to play out their dream. And they played hard and they played really good and they had a good plan. And their players, competed their tail off in the game. And I got to give their coach and their team a lot of credit for that. But we got to get ready and look forward to the things that we have to do to try to improve ourselves to be able to, play next week at Florida. It's an SEC game, and we'll kind of go from there. We had some guys out today, and Job didn't play. Jalen Armour-Davis didn't play. LeBron Ray still didn't play. Will Anderson went out checking out his knee. He's questionable as to what his circumstance will be here for the upcoming week.
Yes, if you could assess the offensive play, the first few possessions of the game, what you see out there and what went right, what went wrong?
Well, what do you think? I mean, it's kind of a loaded question, isn't it? I mean, if it stinks, it stinks. Smells bad for everybody. Smell bad for you? Yeah. I mean, what do you want me to do? Make excuses for them? We did a poor job of blocking. They did some movements up front. We didn't sustain blocks. All right, so we didn't have much success running the ball. We stopped ourselves 4 times in the first half with a drop pass on third down, a drop pass that had been a big play pass, and 2 penalties. One penalty brought back a touchdown. One penalty stopped a drive. So, I mean, I don't know how many possessions we had in the first half, but there's 4 right there where we stopped ourselves. So,
you kind of get to the point, right, where you listen to that. It's not about what Mercer did to Alabama. It couldn't be. The talent is too great. The chasm there is too great. It's what Alabama did to themselves by not having the foresight to say, I probably shouldn't shove this guy well after the play, even if he ticked me off. I can just run 24 miles an hour past him and score a touchdown instead. Or I could catch the ball on third down. And that's not just a single out Jameson Williams. Maybe if I'm Chris Owens, I don't let an FCS defender get past me and sack my quarterback on the first third down of the game. You look all around, and it's a lot of shooting yourselves in the foot rather than the other team imposing it on you. And that's almost always going to be the case with Alabama because of the talent disparity. But at the same time, that's the way Alabama has to look at it because it's the way they're taught. We control what we can control. We do what we can do. Every play, it's 0-0. And every play, we do our jobs and we execute. And the rest will come out and be the way that we want it to be. We'll be up on the scoreboard. We'll win the games. We'll win the championships. That's the way Nick Saban preaches it. But when you don't do that against everybody, it can show. It can show. And you don't want to be that team, right? You don't want to be Florida and having your quarterback in his first year as the full-time starter throwing 2 interceptions late in the ball game. You don't want that. It wasn't that serious for Alabama, but if you continue on that path, that's what you're looking at. And that's not a situation you want to be in at all, right? So you're focused on yourself and you're focused on what you can do to improve, even when you're playing a team that is so far below you on the talent scale, because that's how you get prepared for a team like Florida. Florida's the 13th ranked team in the country, and I don't think they're very good. I think Alabama's gonna have their way with them, especially because Alabama needed this game. Alabama needed to have that type of performance. You look at the way Nick Saban has talked about this program all throughout training camp, and you get to this point, Alabama needed to suck against Mercer. Alabama needed Mercer to come in with heart and show them from the opening kickoff where they tried that pooch onside type deal to show them we're here to win. We don't know if we can, but we're going to do our best to make sure that we go out there and make an effort at it. And that's exactly what Mercer did. All 4 quarters. Did Mercer play their best football? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'll tell you, the last thing a quarterback should be doing is lofting the ball into the flat in the area of Kool-Aid McKinstry. That kid's for real, and he made him pay. But that's where the talent comes in. Because if you have a talented quarterback, he doesn't make that mistake. Emory Jones probably doesn't make that mistake. Anthony Richardson, who Alabama could also see, blasphemous, by the way, to be wearing number 15 at quarterback for Florida. He's probably not going to make that mistake. Couple of updates for you, by the way, from the NFL. Our Bama pros. We'll have our Bama pro of the week for you tomorrow. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Browns, says Jedrick Wills has an ankle injury that is day-to-day, and his x-rays were negative. So Jedrick Wills should be fine, should be on the way back. And if you saw, Jerry Jeudy suffered a high ankle sprain. Timeline on him isn't really clear, but we'll get to know. We'll get to know his kind of situation very, very soon. We'll talk about the Bama Pro players a little bit later in the show. First, we'll go out to the hotline, 205-342-9904. Welcome Corey into the show. Corey, man, what's going on?
Hey, Jacob, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I got my credentials to Gainesville, so I'm planning my road trip for this weekend. The Steelers are 1-0. Najee Harris didn't play very well, but, it happens. But it's a good Monday.
Did you feel like the Pittsburgh was not going to be able to pull it out when they were down 10-0 at halftime?
No, not necessarily, because I'm one of those, if we got Ben, we got a chance kind of guys. But Buffalo's defense is for real. But so was Pittsburgh's, and that was kind of the difference.
Here's the thing: if you're Buffalo, why in the world would you be throwing the ball 51 times against Pittsburgh's pass rush?
They don't have a running game. Buffalo doesn't have a running game. Their running backs are not good enough.
Well, if you're doing that, you're just asking Josh Allen to get hurt.
Yeah, because the Steelers got three incredible edge rushers and Cameron Hayward up the middle. I mean, they were all over him the whole game. Very impressed with Melvin Ingram too. Supposedly Minka Fitzpatrick was one of the lowest graded players in the entire league yesterday from PFF. I know he missed one really bad tackle on Josh Allen in the open field, but he has some other critical plays in there, man. They're so harsh on Minka now that he's had a full 2 years with Pittsburgh. I'm not crazy about it.
Did Patrick Surtain play yesterday?
I don't know. I don't know. I did not get to see the Broncos game at all.
Did J.K. Scott ever get picked up by another team?
What name was that?
J.K. Scott.
No, he has not been signed yet.
Okay. As far as Alabama goes, I think we need to get. Well, this is going to sound silly, but we need Will Anderson on the field.
Yes.
Hopefully, do you think he'll play? In your opinion?
I think he will. Everything I heard Saturday was his trip to the locker room was precautionary. That it's his knee, but it's nothing too terribly serious. Nick Saban's timetable was questionable. He may split reps a little bit more with Chris Braswell this week. But I mean, this is the Terminator we're talking about. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to play.
Are you concerned about Alabama's offense this time of year? Because I just feel like, don't get me wrong. I never said going into the season that this offense was going to be like last year, but I just feel like the offense has been clunky at this point of the year.
I'm not stressed. I'm not concerned. I'm not like, oh, we're going to lose to Florida. You know, I don't think we're even going to really struggle with Florida, because I think this coaching moment, this teaching moment for Alabama is such a huge positive for them. It's such a opportunity for them to correct the mistakes that have been made. And at the same time, I don't think Alabama's going to see a particularly great defense until the SEC championship against Georgia, as far as predictions go. But at the end of the day, it is about execution, and it's about taking those opportunities to learn from your failures. If you consider the Mercer game a failure in any regard, or if you take any failures out of that game, you learn from them and you improve on them. Bryce Young didn't play particularly bad, but he also made a lot of weird decisions to me. Threw into double coverage a couple of times. Not crazy about that. Seemed out of sync with a few guys. But, I mean, you look at John Mechie, you look at JoJo Earl, those guys played fantastic. You look at Brian Robinson, he played incredible. But there was a lot of guys, it's just they weren't as consistent as they were against Miami, and not nearly as consistent as they have to be in order to play that dominant style of football we saw in the first half against Miami consistently throughout the season, because that's what Nick Saban wants.
And what do you think of the defense giving up 14 points to Mercer?
Well, some of those points did come very late when younger players are on the field. To me, I thought the defense played absolutely perfectly fine. And while we're looking at it, yes, it's Mercer. And yes, you don't want to give up more points against Mercer than you did against Miami, even if it's just one silly point. They're still on pace for their goals. They've given up 13.5 points per game, and all of their turnovers have resulted in over 5.5 points per game, per turnover, I should say. And as far as I'm concerned, if we're within the goals that Pete Golding said, then I'm fine. And at the same time, you only got to turn on the tape for like 3 minutes and see the way the interior portion of this defense, I'm talking the inside linebackers, the inside defensive linemen, and realize those guys are still doing their jobs. Those guys are still incredible. Drew Sanders played well. Will Anderson played well until he got hurt. Chris Braswell didn't do a bad job in relief of him. The safeties are still good. I wish Jordan Battle could be in on more plays, but I think he's playing deep more often than he used to. And the corners were both guys making their first starts. So to me, the defense gets the highest grade out of anybody in that game, even if it looks kind of weird because they gave up 14 points.
Do you think the offensive line is like, okay, I think going into the season, we all know Evan Neal's good, Emil Ekiyor's good. It's the right side of the offensive line that's the problem, because we know we have a freshman in Javion Cohen, and then it was going to be Kendall Randolph, and now it's Chris Owens. Chris Owens gave up a sack, which was the first third down that Bryce Young got sacked on. And when you allow Mercer to get interior pressure, that's what's not good. Would you agree?
Oh, I absolutely would. I think one of the most inexcusable things that happened in that game was Chris Owens giving up a sack on the first third down of the game. This is about the fourth time I've mentioned that through the show. You absolutely cannot let that happen. The talent disparity is too great. So it comes down to execution and trusting in your technique and going out there and doing your job. Javion Cohen's a sophomore, by the way, but regardless, I like the way the offensive line is structured. I like where everybody is. I think everybody's in their best spot. I think the offensive line is the best offensive line to give Alabama the best chance to win. They've just got to play better. If I was, I'm not a grades guy at all. You're not going to see Alabama grades on Tide109.com with a Jacob Harrison byline in it. But if I did do grades, the offensive line would get the lowest grade out of anybody on this football team for that performance on Saturday. So there's plenty still that needs to be picked up right there.
I know you said we're going to beat Florida. But is there anything that concerns you as far as, like, yes, we're going to win, but maybe something would keep it closer, or something that just there's something in the back of your mind that makes you wonder, okay, you know what I mean? Like, is there anything kind of in the back of your mind going into this game?
If Anthony Richardson plays the whole game at quarterback, and he won't, because he's the better player. He's the better quarterback. I don't have any faith in Emory Jones. I wanted to believe. Not crazy about him. Don't think he played well. You can't throw 2 interceptions against South Florida in the second half. Jacob Copeland's an incredible player, but that's the thing. All of their best players are on the offensive side of the field, and all of Alabama's best players are on the defensive side of the field. So, and I don't think Florida has enough to really contend with that at all to bring something to the table where they're going to put 30 on this defense. I can't see it. Maybe if they still had Kyle Pitts, maybe if they still had Kyle Trask, it'd be a little bit different, but that's not the case. That's not who's walking through the door. Their defense is still not reliable enough. And Bryce Young, I think Bryce Young leadership, we're going to hear, I believe we're going to hear from Bryce Young today. I believe his leadership skills and everything that happened in that Mercer game is going to carry over, and it's going to impact Alabama in a positive way and bring them to where they need to be to perform against Florida. Corey, we really appreciate it, dude.
Good job, Jacob. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, Corey. We'll take a break. We'll come back, get Johnny in Florida next here on Off the Edge. Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama sports.
Church's has a deal made for you or all y'all. Choose your favorite tenders, the classic style chicken and spicy or original, with sides and biscuits for everyone. So swing by for Church's Feed 6, starting at $20 deals. Church's, bringing that down-home flavor. Offer valid at participating locations.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? So you've got an oil change coming up? We can help you get started. Right now, you can get 5 quarts of Castrol GTX and an STP oil filter, plus an STP air filter or cabin air filter for just $34.99. And you can get it all fast, your way. Just order online with our free same-day store pickup or next-day delivery.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Start your job today at AutoZone.com. Restrictions apply.
This is Renee.
Happy to be here.
She's not some influencer. She's more of a groundbreaker, turning her 4-acre lot into a little slice of heaven behind the wheel of a John Deere 1 Series tractor. Renee runs with us because the most important job is the next one.
That's all I got.
Nothing runs like a Deere. Get a 1 Series tractor for just $99 per month at your John Deere dealer today. For additional cost information, please call toll-free 855-633-2315.
Dell's semi-annual sale delivers unmatched productivity and play. Right now, save what Dell employees save with 17% off leading XPS and Alienware computers powered by Intel Core processors. Visit Dell.com/semi-annual or call 800 by Dell. That's 800 by Dell.
Get that satisfying crunch. Now with 20% more honey. Try a delicious Nature Valley Oats and Honey Crunchy Bar with more of the honey you love.
So sticky.
At Hannah's Organic Honey, business may be sweet, but they need an e-commerce queen bee to lead the hive.
Okay, these jars are going to Jakarta. Oh, wait a minute. Does that say Jackson?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Schedule virtual interviews and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to Off the Edge on Tide 100.9.
We're back here on Off the Edge, Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Jacob Harrison here with you. Joe Gaither producing the program, taking your phone calls, reactions to Alabama Mercer, getting ready to go down to Gainesville, take on the Florida Gators. I don't think Florida played particularly bad against South Florida, but just execution-wise, you think they'd be a little bit more crisp? It's the same thing as Alabama versus Mercer. Like, you just think that they would be just a little bit better on the execution side. But I'm not sold on Emory Jones. And I was about the only guy in this studio willing to give Emory Jones a chance to be, a Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence caliber player who just had to wait his turn, unlike those two guys, since he was in the same class. But that just doesn't appear to be the case. And I think Anthony Richardson, man, he performed really, really well. So we'll see how that split kind of goes moving forward. Let's go to Johnny in Florida on the hotline. Johnny, what's going on, man?
Nothing. I wanted to call in Sports Show and tell you you're doing a great job.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Johnny.
Yeah. Just a couple things I was going to bounce off you from watching what we got two game sample to this point. One, Miami really struggled to beat Appalachian State. And I think when you start looking at quality of opponents, you really don't have a sample size yet for Alabama. We really haven't played a really good team. And on that note, I haven't seen really any teams in college football this year that I would say are a really good team. There's some components like Georgia's defense that are really good, but I haven't seen anybody that's just, sort of a train wreck waiting to happen down the road, like Trevor Lawrence, Clemson's, and so forth. And it just seems overall that college football is kind of the quality of play. Maybe it's because everybody's younger, and that's just the nature of the sport. But it just seems like the quality of play is not there, and I think that applies to Alabama as well. Because the thing that screamed to me in that game against Mercer was that we're just extremely immature, young, undisciplined, and it showed. I mean, Brian Robinson is about the only one out there that kind of has the old guard mentality in my mind, and the others just need to develop it. I don't know. What do you have to say about it?
I kind of agree to a point. It's kind of interesting because a lot of what I read in the offseason was, well, so many teams are bringing back experience because of the extra COVID year. And even Alabama has benefited from that with Chris Owens and with Brian Robinson. But I see that across the board is that nobody stands up with what Alabama has on talent, and Alabama's talent isn't executing the way Nick Saban wants it to. So it's a little bit more balanced than we thought maybe after week one as far as the slate in college football. But somebody's got to step up. Kind of the feelings I had on C.J. Stroud kind of came to roost against Oregon. You look at Georgia and what they're dealing with offensively, it's just not enough. I mean, putting 60 on UAB, I mean, that's not something to comment on. But you look around, it's kind of in that space where it really is kind of wide open if Alabama doesn't get their stuff in gear. But think about Miami's struggle with App State. First of all, I'm a big App State guy, even though they're in the Sun Belt and they beat the tar out of the Trojans all the time. That's an incredible football team, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's a team that the American Conference looks at to kind of bolster what they've lost in Cincinnati and Houston and UCF. That's a good program. That being said, if Miami's really not a good football team, then that is the plain example that Nick Saban was trying to instill against Mercer. If Miami's really bad, and they could be, but Alabama respected them like the top 15 opponent that they were, and went out and executed the way they did in that first half where they were just dominant, then what's to stop you from doing that against Miami? Or what's to stop you from doing that against Mercer since you did it against Miami if they weren't a good football team? And I think that kind of just lays into what Nick Saban says. And why I agree with something that Mike Tomlin said for my Steelers last year that a lot of people took out of context. It doesn't matter what colors are on the other side of the sideline. It doesn't matter what names are over there. They're a bunch of nameless gray faces. You worry about you go out and execute, you go do your job, and it'll all come out in the wash. If you're worried about the fact that De'Aaron King has a gazillion dollars in NIL deals, you're worried about the wrong things. If you're worried about Florida and the fact that Dan Mullen pushes out good quarterbacks, you're worried about the wrong thing. You go out there and you worry about, what do I do as Will Anderson to get to the quarterback? What do I do as Kool-Aid McKinstry to cover this receiver? What do I do as Chris Owens to block this edge rusher? You don't concern yourself with all those other sorts of things. And it kind of just helps send home that point that Nick Saban stressed so much throughout the week and didn't seem to come across until after the performance was what it was against Mercer.
Yeah, I mean, when you see the personal foul with Williams, and my instant thought is, well, he's not been around here long enough to know not to do that, because you just don't see that.
Yeah, I instantly said that's the Buckeye in him.
Yeah, that was Buckeye there. I mean, that certainly is not Saban, and I'm sure Saban will clean that up immediately in his own way. So yeah, that was uncharacteristic, and just the overall vibe. I think we're spoiled because last year was so exceptional. Meaning, you really had everything that could go right for this team, because they won every award, including Heisman, won the national championship, went undefeated. It was such a unique, and then they had all those first round draft picks. And then you see what Mac's doing in the pros. You see what these guys, other than Najee yesterday, he's had a good preseason. These guys are exceptional, and they seem to be exceptional character too. So you wonder if Saban, you put your trust in him, but he's got to be pulling his hair out, because there's obviously a lack of that on this team, and they can still have it. They're very talented. They could develop it, but that's what screams out of the TV to me when I see them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, still, yes, they need to pull that out, and yes, they need to do all the things that you just said, but maybe that's exactly what they needed, is for that to come against Mercer. And Chris Owens said it after the game. He said a lot of Nick Saban quotes after the game to kind of get a point across that we need to listen to Coach Saban a little bit more and maybe embed some of these quotes in our brains. But he said, this is one of those things where, if you don't execute the way that you're supposed to, it might not get you today against Mercer. It might not get you next week against Florida, but it could get you down the road when you're vying for a playoff spot or you're trying to win a championship in the SEC or nationally. And that's when you don't want it to hit you. So let it hit you against Mercer, where your talent can kind of absorb the blow, and you can learn from failures that don't cripple you. You don't want to have to deal with it at all. Chris Owens said it shouldn't take something bad happening to us for us to be able to learn and to listen to coach. But maybe this is the best thing for this team and exactly what it needed to kind of take on to grow in that maturity, like you're talking about, Johnny. I think you're spot on, dude.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right. Well, again, congratulations, doing a terrific job. Keep up good work.
I appreciate it, man. Call back anytime, Johnny.
All right.
Johnny in Florida helping us out there, having a good time. And I think Johnny's spot on, man. You look at last year, and that's one of those that this is why it's so hard to repeat, even in college football, even with the greatest coach of all time. Why he's only done it once here at Alabama. Why is it so hard? Is because of the roster turnover and having to instill these same messages, and for these guys to hang on to them and to understand why it's so important, why it comes off that way. There's a lot to learn for this football team. But maybe that Mercer game is exactly what they needed. We'll continue to take your phone calls. One more segment to go here on the show, about 13 minutes. 205-342-9904. We'll dive into, oh goodness. We're about to have some fun. We'll dive into Mac Jones and Tua Tagovailoa's performance just a little bit, and then we'll go to the phones. And we'll welcome in Gator Man next here on Off the Edge, Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama sports.
If you were lied to when buying a timeshare and want out, you need my help. Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, CEO and founder of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started the timeshare cancellation industry by exposing the ugly truth about timeshare and giving folks the straight facts. I've been fighting the timeshare giants ever since, so no one knows this industry better than me and my team. Today, we have 383 employees and have saved our clients an average of $65,000 in lifetime payments. Imagine putting those timeshare dollars back in your pocket. If you were told at a timeshare presentation that this was available today and today only, that timeshare was a great investment or your maintenance fees will never go up, call my office now. I guarantee you, if we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-949-1441. 800-949-1441. 800-949-1441.
We're short a PCO today. Let's try to stay on schedule.
New customers have Emery's exterminator business buzzing. She needs new specialists to tackle a swarm of appointments.
Norwegian tree mouse. That's a first.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. With Indeed Instant Match, we immediately show you quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed meet your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Bama fans, before you head to the stadium to watch the Tide roll, stop by JD's Market and Spirits for all your tailgating needs for Bama football games. Located only 3 blocks from the stadium, JD's offers over 500 liquor items, 400 wine items, and a huge selection of craft, domestic, and imported beers. JD's also has hot dogs, snacks, ice, and game day supplies. Everything you need for tailgating. JD's Market and Spirits, 400 yards from Bryant-Denny Stadium on the west side. Call 722-2113.
Dell's semi-annual sale is the perfect opportunity for a significant business upgrade. Save up to 45% on Dell computers built for business with Windows 10 Pro. Plus, enjoy special pricing on Dell docks, monitors, servers, and more, all with easy financing options through Dell Financial Services. Succeed anywhere with Windows 10 Pro. Speak to a Dell Technologies advisor today to find the right tech for your business with fast, free shipping. Call 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Increasingly cloudy this afternoon. The chance of a shower or storm in a few spots. The high in the mid-80s at 86. For tonight and tomorrow, mostly cloudy. A few showers and thunderstorms are likely. Our low tonight 69. The high tomorrow at 79. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 82 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to Off the Edge on Tide 100.9.
We're back on Off the Edge, Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama sports. Jacob Harrison here with you, Joe Gaither across the glass. Before we go to Gator Man, I just want to give a weekly reminder to all prospective scouts that maybe are at the University of Alabama, looking to get into draft coverage, maybe those sorts of things. Your weekly reminder that accuracy, anticipation, and ball placement, way more important than arm strength. Way more important than arm strength, as Mac Jones displayed yesterday against Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. 74% completion percentage, and they almost won the ball game. They came up short. Wasn't entirely Mac Jones' fault. Team effort there. Patriots, they're still growing. Tua, same thing. Ball placement. Ball placement, ball placement, ball placement. Accuracy and anticipation. That makes a good quarterback. I mean, you could have a super noodle arm like Kyle Trask, and it'll really hold you back. That's just a dig at Gator Man. Gator Man, welcome to the show, dude. How you doing?
I'm doing good, boss man. I am jacked. I am ready. My team's ready.
and we're going to knock you off, buddy. It's coming. You can write it down. Gator Man said that Monday morning. Monday morning. Still morning. But we're going to knock you off, baby. I hope everybody thinks the same way you're talking, that you're not going to give us a chance at all. But we coming. We coming.
I don't know that I said not a chance at all. I look at the team and the playmakers. I respect Jacob Copeland. I respect Anthony Richardson. I respect Emory Jones about as much as I can. But I still don't see the improvement to. Okay. I still don't see the improvement to the defense. I don't see anything explosive in the running game. What's this guy's name? Damian Pierce, excuse me. Not very athletic. I don't see it. I just don't see it. Now, if Alabama struggles has the same type of mental struggles as they did against Mercer, it'll be a really close game.
Oh yeah. It's not going to be. We're going to beat you guys, man. I've been saying this forever. We are going to beat Alabama.
But who's the quarterback, Gator Man? I mean, you got to have a quarterback to beat the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Much as I want to say it, I think Richardson should be the quarterback.
Let me ask you, since you say that, let me ask you how you feel, because I felt a little bit weird watching some tape this morning on him and come to realize that he wears number 15. Doesn't that feel a little bit weird with a quarterback wearing 15?
I don't like it.
I wouldn't expect so.
Yeah, I don't like it. He should have chose 14 or 13. He didn't have to choose 15. Is
he the first guy to wear 15 at all since Tebow?
Exactly.
Oh, that's even.
Yeah, and my thing is, Mullins is sticking with Emory, man, because he didn't go into the transfer portal, and he's trying to pay him back for not leaving, because he had every chance to leave.
Here's the thing, Gator Man. I was talking to Joe about his Bears during the break, and you know why the Bears aren't very good, or one of the big reasons they're not very good is because they won't just give the ball to Justin Fields and tell him that he's the quarterback. They're basing their entire franchise at the beginning of this season off of an agreement that Andy Dalton would be the quarterback. If Andy Dalton's not the best quarterback for the Bears, don't make him the quarterback. If Emory Jones is not the best quarterback for the Florida Gators, don't make him the quarterback. He's not a bad football player. He's just not elite, and he doesn't show elite traits, which Anthony Richardson did in about 10 plays against South Florida.
Right. I'm a Redskins fan in the pros, and it is just horrible, man. We just can't go get a quarterback. Just spend the money. Go get a quarterback.
Yeah. You might need to give Cam a call with the old Fitzmagic going straight through the hip.
Exactly. I mean, our defense is elite.
Gave up 424 yards against the Chargers.
Huh?
It gave up 424 yards against the Chargers.
Yeah, we did.
It is an elite defense. It's up there. It's just got to have help from the offense or it can't do its thing.
Yeah, don't remind me. But man, I think we're going to win the division. I really do.
Hey, that's it. That's the horse that I backed on that. We'll see. Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith look really good though. Gator Man, we're out of time, dude. I appreciate it.
All right, bud.
Super Joe, I ain't got time for you, man. I'm sorry. You can tell Ryan all about it at 2:00. All right, dude. Take it easy. We're out of here. Tomorrow we'll break it all down with AJ Spur. We'll get his thoughts on Mac versus Tua, his Dolphins picking up the dub there, and his thoughts on Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith, all the Bama pros, as well as Alabama preparing for the Florida Gators. We're going to have a lot of fun this week preparing for our first SEC game of the year. Also, news. The Alabama Athletics Department announced that Southern Miss will kick off at 6:30 in Bryant-Denny Stadium. So you get to experience the lights in 2 weeks. Jay Parker shows up next. Ryan Fowler takes you home 2-6 with the game. I'm Jacob Harrison. This is Off the Edge. Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
Tonight,
Thank you for listening to Off the Edge.
Can't tell you how proud I am of our players, our team.
Join us every Monday from 8 to 10 and Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and the Tide 100.9 app.
Crimson Tide Today is presented by Tuscaloosa, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram.
From the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Today. It's a daily update on Bama sports, and it's brought to you by C Spire. C Spire, Alabama's